Here's a really simple follow along mobility routine for your hips. All you need is a floor and some hips. Sit your butt down, your cheeks on the floor are about to become best friends. We're gonna start with something called the 90-90. Your butt and your feet are gonna stay in the same place here. We're gonna move our knees like windscreen wipers. Swish, swish. Sound effects are not necessary. If you find this really difficult, absolutely okay. Number one, you can start by just getting your hands down behind you. It's gonna make it a lot easier. But if you find that even too hard still, you can just lay on the floor. Contemplate life while you windscreen wipe your knees. I've gone too close to the wall here. Damn it. But you get the point. We're just swishing from side to side to side to side to side. Go whichever feels most comfortable for you, where you can feel a bit of a stretch in your hips, but it doesn't feel like absolute agony. We're doing something called internal rotation and external rotation, essentially lubing up the hips in ways that were designed to move but don't often get moved if you spend a huge amount of time sitting down or just being a human in modern day prawn-based society. We're gonna do roughly about 10 on each side. You'll probably learn that I'm absolutely horrendous at counting when we're doing this, so kind of making it up as I go along, but even still, it's just good for you. I had to move because you couldn't see me. There's a rule here that we respectfully maintain eye contact when we're doing this so we don't look south, because we want to make everybody feel comfortable around here. Once we've done roughly about 10 on each side, I want you to choose one side and I want you to hold into that position. And we're gonna stay here for roughly about 15 or 20 seconds. If your knees can't touch the floor, don't panic, you are not broken. Hold your hands down again or lay down. But we wanna get used to spending a little bit more time in this position while being able to sit as upright as we possibly can without our back inside knee being, without our back inside hip being in absolute agony. Once we've spent about 15 seconds here, we're gonna swap around and go on to the other side. Don't worry if your knees aren't like a complete 90-degree angle, they don't need to be. Just go anywhere that's relatively comfortable for you and get your knees as close down to the ground as you can comfortably while staying as upright as possible. Again, if you're falling over, you're like this, you're like, ah, look like a crime scene. Don't worry, you are not alone, but the more time we spend here, maybe not in this exact position, the more our hips are gonna get used to being in that internally and externally rotated position. These two positions are really important for your spine. So if you can't get here yet, don't panic, but spend more time here and your body will thank you. For now, we're gonna spend time working on something called a pigeon. So you're gonna get into this 90-90 position. You're gonna sit as upright as you can. Use your hands if you need. And we're gonna look at like folding forward. You should, if you're doing this right, feel a stretch on the outside, the front of your hip, on the side of the butt cheek. Don't worry if you can't get as low down as I can. It's not a competition. It's just about going as far as you possibly can within a relatively comfortable range. If you need to use your hands to support you, that's absolutely okay. But one thing that will really help make this stretch a little bit more intense in a good way is lifting your chest up and focusing on keeping nice and upright when you fall down. After doing that, you're like, oh, hot damn, Mac Daddy, I feel that on the outside of my butt, and you're doing it right, okay? We're gonna start by about doing 10 of these. Again, no idea how many we've done. Promise I'm not entirely making this up as I go along. I have planned this. I'll probably forget something knowing me. But it's just me and sleeping Gwen against the world. Again, this is really nice for just opening up your hips in ways that they need to be opened up but don't often get done. So if you feel like a really nice stretch, don't be afraid to pause it. Just spend a little bit of time here. You wiggle. Nice deep breath. I'm sorry you have to listen to me breathe into this microphone. I'm gonna try and make it as painless as possible. We're just gonna stay here for a little bit, feel nice. Again, don't worry if you're like up here and you're like, oh my God, have to use my hands to do this. It's not a competition, just taking it at our pace. Now we've done roughly about 10, we're gonna swap around and we're gonna do it on the other side. So again, we're keeping our chest nice and upright, using our hands for support, folding down as low as we can until we feel a stretch on the outside of the butt and only going as deep as we possibly can. You're not trying to rip your groin off. If you find that one side is much stiffer than the other, first of all, that's normal. Like asymmetries are a normal thing. Our heart sits slightly onto the left side of our body. Our hips are often slightly tilted and our spine has interesting curves individual to us. But asymmetries are normal, so don't panic thinking you're broken. That being said, we want to work at slightly evening up the discrepancies a little bit. So if you've got one side, you're like, oh, this is tighter than the other, don't be afraid to spend a little bit more time here. For me, it's my right-hand side. My right hip, so much tighter than my left. So I find when I'm doing this exercise, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna pause here and have a little wiggle, take a few deep breaths, don't want to breathe into the microphone, and relax. Again, we're gonna do a few more because I can't remember how many we've done. I said we were gonna do about 10. Now while we're here, we're gonna stay in this position. Get your hands behind you if you need. We're gonna do something which is gonna be slightly inappropriate, so I'm gonna move my legs away so you're not staring at my crotch. But while you're in this 90-90 position, this inside leg, what are you gonna do for me? Keep your foot where it is. Do not keep your knee where it is. That is completely against what this is about to do. I want you to open up your leg. Oh, it's so hard not to flash your crotch when you're doing this. We're just gonna accept fate here. You're gonna open up your knee until you start to feel a stretch on the inside of your groin. Hold for a few seconds and come back down. Again, we're just moving our hips. Look at my eyes, not around the eyes, into the eyes. This does make me feel quite vulnerable right now. So good job you're not recording yourself, but we'll get through this together. I don't actually know what these are called. I don't know what any of these things are called. I feel like so many of them have animal names, but don't understand, because that last one was a pigeon, was a variation of a pigeon. But I don't know where they get pigeon from. I don't understand why anyone's done that exercise and gone, you know what? I really feel like a pigeon right now. I always feel like a pigeon, as you can tell. Again, we're gonna do about 10. If you feel a nice stretch in this position, don't be afraid to hold it. For me, I'm like, ooh, wow, we were. Once we're done at 10, we're gonna swap round, and we're gonna go on the other side. I just had this image of someone watching this going, Adam, you've just done 7. And I'm like, look, I know. The numbers aren't really that important. I say that just because I'm so bad at it. I was horrendous when I used to train people face to face. I'd be like, not like, one more, but I'd be like, that's 8? And they'd be like, Adam, that's 6. I'm sorry. Too busy chatting, as you can probably imagine. I think I've probably done 6 of these. But you should feel a really nice stretch on the inside of your groin, maybe even slightly on the outside of your hip. But again, we're just working on opening up those hips in ways they deserve to be opened. Now next one, we're staying into these 90-90 positions. You're gonna come upright a little bit for me, and you're gonna face this forward facing leg. This one is a little bit more challenging, so if you can't do this one, don't panic about it. I'll show you a little adaptation we can do in a second. We're gonna do this back leg. Our aim is to lift the foot off the ground while the knee stays there. Use your hands on the floor if you need to. Doesn't matter if you're folding forward a little bit, but you're gonna lift up, hold for a couple of seconds, and come back down. The aim is to repeat this about 10 times on each side. Now, if you're looking at me doing this and you're thinking, that looks easy, and you try it, and you're like, why do my hips not moving that way? It's an amazing thing to build up for, but again, don't panic. There's nothing wrong with you, you're not broken. Just something to work on over time. What we're gonna do in the meantime is you're gonna try to stay as upright as you can. Again, if your hands need to be folding behind you just to give you a bit of support, that's okay. Hold your hands and you're gonna twist towards that back leg. You will feel a stretch in that hip. Again, if you need to use your hands, fine, but same principle, try open up your chest and your body towards that back leg, feel that stretch. If you find that really simple, you can do that while we're doing this one. It's the exact same principle. We're trying to strengthen ourselves into this internally rotated position. I don't have a name for this. Oh, I want to call it the eagle. I was about to say, give me your best bird noises. I can't hear them. You can write them in the comments if you like. I'd love to read your best bird noise. I think we've probably done about 7 or 8 of these now. Really good for actually strengthening something called internal rotation. Will help with squatting, just help with general functionality of your hips. I think we've done about 10 there. We're gonna swap around to the other side. So remember, coming into the same one as the pigeon fold. Use your hands if you need. Knee stays there, lifting up that back leg. Hot foot, hold for a couple of seconds and come back down. I feel a lot more restricted on this side. You'll probably notice that my left hip can't go half as high as the other one. So again, it's not uncommon to have one side that's better than the other. Remember, if this is too difficult, use your hands beside, rotate, open up your chest, feel that stretch in that internal rotation, or go hands free and twist towards. Find a variation for you that doesn't feel like your hips are gonna snap, but you at least get some kind of movement. That's the important part about all of this. Well, I've done about 7. We'll go a couple more. Cherries on top, 9 and 10. I'll come onto your hands and your knees, oi oi. Then you're gonna bring one leg up towards your hands. Just gonna open up your hip. Imagine you're like rolling your ankle, you're pushing your knee outwards a little bit and then come back. We're just gonna open this up. I like rocking my hips forward when I do it as well. Just have a little wiggle around. I think it's such an underrated part of just like movement when you're doing something that follow along like this. Find what feels good for you. I'm gonna guide you to move in a particular way, something that I think will be good for your body. That being said, like if you do something, you're like, wow, I feel a stretch like that I've never felt before. Don't be afraid to stay there a little bit longer. Don't be afraid to tell me to shut up, to miss the next exercise, but carry on doing that one. If it feels nice, you do it twice. It's about you, you and me. Again, I'm not sure how many I've done here, but once you've done about 10, and in this position, you're gonna rock forward as far as you can. Should feel a nice stretch on the back hip as well. Keep that as far as you can. Hold for a few seconds, and then we're gonna rock back And when we rock back, what I want you to think about is you're sending your hips back, but trying to straighten this front leg, and you're gonna feel a stretch down the back of your leg into your hamstring and your calf. If you wanna make this more intense, try fold your chest down and bring your toes up. Hold for a few seconds, and then we're gonna rock forward again. Drop your hips down, like as low as you possibly can. Feel a little stretch in your hip flexor. Keep your hands on the floor if you need, and then come back. Hips go backwards, leg gets straightened as much as you possibly can. It's fine if you can't straighten your leg. Then drop your chest down as low as you can. Lift up your toe if you wanna make it more intense. And then rock back. Just limbering up parts of your hip, like your hamstring is a part of your hip, it's all connected. You are one beautiful human kinetic chain. Kinetic just basically means movement, and you move, and you're a chain. Words, Adam. Promise not always just mental, it's just when you're in front of a camera for like 10, 15 minutes on your own, it's quite hard to not chat absolute rubbish. Now we're done on that side, we're gonna go on to the other one. I'm actually starting to get a little bit of a sweat here. I say that, like if you're sweating your nut off, it's absolutely okay. Remember, other position, you're just gonna open up your hip, like you're rolling your ankle, push it a little bit, drop forward a little bit as well. If your hips have been popping and cracking like Rice Krispies while you've been doing this, like, I think that's a good thing. I personally find it really satisfying, but also it's one of those things that the more you do these movements, the less that will happen. So make the most of them while they last. It's just gas popping out of your joints and they haven't been used in a while. So remember, just like making circles, having a little wiggle, rocking forward, opening up that hip, feeling the stretch in your groin, all the good stuff, because we never neglect the groin. And we've done roughly about 10 of these. We're gonna rock forwards. Remember, dropping that hip down, pushing that hip forward, hands on the ground if you need. Hold for a few seconds, and then we're gonna rock our hips backwards, straighten that front leg, lift up that toe, fold down our chest. My hamstring is so tight from yesterday. Wah. Hold, rock forward, have a little wiggle around, have a little bounce, whatever feels nice for you. Remember, if it feels nice, we do this twice. I've actually been counting this time, that's 3. After this, we're gonna stretch more of the groin. Well, you're gonna stretch your own groin. I ain't touching yours. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm in a loving relationship, not with my cat, but I am with my cat as well. Not loving. I'm gonna stop digging myself a hole, put the spade down, Adam. Now when we're done roughly about 10 of these, we're gonna stay on our hands and your knees. We're gonna do something called the Adductor rocks. So come down, hands and your knees, I'm gonna face you. Choose a leg, any leg, one of the two. I'm gonna go left, it might look like right to you, and stick it out. You're gonna slide it as long, as far as you can. My sliders are getting in the way. Should already start to feel a stretch in your groin, but don't force your nuts off here. And really gently, you're gonna rock back till you start to feel a stretch here. You might not be able to go as far as I can. Use your hands for an extra bit of support. Don't panic if you're like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm gonna break. Hold for 5 seconds, we're gonna rock forward. And we're gonna come back. We're just gonna ease into this. Again, only go as far as you can to the point when you feel the stretch. There's a real big difference when you're stretching at things that should be like discomfort. Like stretching in there, it's not meant to be fun. It's meant to be good for you, but it's not meant to be fun. We just like open up joints in places that have never really been opened up before, like in the tissues and the muscle around it. So of course it's gonna be a bit uncomfortable, but it should never hurt. It should never be in the point where you're like sharp, stabbing, shooting pains and you're like, ah, if that happens, you've definitely done too much. That being said, you should experience some level of discomfort if you're stretching into uncharted territory you've never been into before, because that's what happens, isn't it? You get into uncharted territory and you grow. The comfort zone expands, the flexibility expands, the mobility expands. I don't know what I got on my carpet there, but we'll get through it. I think I've probably done about 8 or 9. Let's swap around and go on to the other one. Onto this side, stretching the leg out, rocking back as far as you can. Don't be afraid again if one, don't be afraid, why would you be afraid? Don't be worried if one leg is more flexible than the other. Again, I've said it multiple times, but it's so true. It's the good stuff. Coming back, and coming back, and coming back. Again, you can hold this in any position if you feel it's really nice for you and you enjoy it. You enjoy it. But if it feels good for you, don't just listen to me. Do what feels right for you. You've probably done about 8. We need 2 more now. 9. How do you say 10 in Spanish? No, it's 10 in French. In français. Parlez-vous français? I don't speak French, by the way. It sounds fancy, doesn't it? Last thing we're gonna do, and then we are done. We're gonna get on your hands and your knees, like this, and you're gonna put your leg behind you, and you're gonna bring it up and just make some circles. Just using all of that nice new room we just made. Big circles, as big as you can. Out to the back, bring it round. Try moving mostly at your hips, not at your spine, but don't worry if your spine is gonna move. You may find this really hard. I do. I struggled with my hips for years. We're gonna go back the other way now. The coordination to do this, for me, I've always struggled with it. But it's a really big sign for me that I had back pain for years. I never even thought about my hips, but your hips are the next line of defense for your back. And the ability to move and coordinate your hips is so important for your back to function well. So this is just building on everything we've done in circular motions. And it is making me sweat. So I'm gonna show you the other side. Same thing, hands and knees, bring your knee out, bring it back round, stretch it, bring it back down. Think about drawing the biggest circle you can. Try and move from your hips as much as you possibly can. Not so much from your back. And after this, we are gonna be done. I'm sweating me nuts off. Might be a sign it's getting warmer. I mean, it is almost spring. It's March when I'm recording this. I live in Glasgow and it's sunny. I can't believe it. I'm ready. Last one, I'm gonna come back the other way. Hand up and make a big loop. Open up hip. You may feel some crunching and some grinding. I definitely do on this hip. Just this is the one that needs a lot more work for me. Last 3. I think I might actually drip with sweat. I love it. It's the good stuff. Who knew mobility work could be so rewarding? And you're done. Hope your hips are feeling all lubed up, loosey-goosey and ready to go for the day. And I really hope this helped. Do the like and the comment and the subscribing if you did, and I really appreciate all your support. Love you.